Howdy, y'all, and welcome to the Stay Creative Podcast, a podcast dedicated to highlighting talented artists and extracting from conversations with them things that listeners can apply to their own creative practices. I'm really excited today to be talking with Stripe McCoy. He is an artist from the UK. He makes kind of electronic, alternative pop music in some ways. It's very interesting music. I'm really excited to get into the details of how he creates it, why he creates it, and what it is that he hopes to achieve, through creating. It's good stuff. Stick around. Stripe, first off, I'm so glad to be talking with you today, like we kind of discussed. I know the IMF community is also really eager to get to know you, and they've been enjoying your music and your contributions for a long time. I think we're all excited to find out more about you as a person, but also some of the background of this album and some of your other music and stuff. So again, thanks Stripe for talking with me today. I'm eager to talk about your music, but first let's get into some of the more who you are, part of our discussion. So tell me about yourself. Where did you grow up, first off?
Well, I grew up in a town called Telford in England. It's somewhat, I guess it isn't small, but in compared to like the cities, it's quite small. There's like 140,000 people here or something like that.
Wow, yeah.
But yeah, I've been here my whole life pretty much.
Okay. So you still live in the town you grew up in?
Yeah. I still live with my parents while I've gone back to uni. So.
Oh, awesome. Okay, yeah. That's another thing I like to know is like what obviously music is most of our passion, our work, but obviously we have to find some way to survive too.
Oh yeah, totally.
I feel like that is as important a job as any paycheck job could be, just because like it's taxing. It's very high expectations on you, and unlike a job like, I can kind of slack off for a whole week and pretty much not get fired. But a student, man, you slack off for a week and you've got to make up for it for the rest of the semester.
Yeah, it's the course I've been doing that I started in September. We started with like 30 people and we got down to 11 by the end of it because everyone just dropped out. Yeah, it was tough.
Yeah, that sounds. What are you studying right now?
I'm going into sociology, so like the study of society and all that stuff.
Would the end goal of something like that be like social work or?
Not social work specifically. I was looking into media marketing, so like you sort of like the ethics of marketing and stuff like that. So you could say what companies are doing wrong morally, and sort of just giving them a slap on the head and correcting it for them.
You don't have to like watch TV very very long to know that our society and our world in general need people with those sorts of skills. That's cool.
Yeah.
So I feel like this next question may be just cast off, because it sounds like you stay pretty busy between turning out these jams and also dealing with quite a big workload at school. But what are some of your non-music hobbies? What else do you do? Not at school, not jamming.
I like to do photography a lot. I've got a good group of friends here where, obviously before the lockdown and stuff, we'd all just go on road trips and take photos at places.
Do you use your photography with your music? I've seen some of your track art, and it looks more drawn or maybe digitally drawn or something. Do you ever couple the two?
I haven't. my display picture on like most social media things is I took myself, but the art is by a friend of mine called Sam.
Oh,
He
okay.
goes by Lazy Links. He does all my like main artwork for me. He's a really talented artist.
Awesome. Yeah,
But
yeah. I've really enjoyed the track art, especially. I mean, obviously that astronaut blasting off image. That
yeah,
yeah, that's super cool stuff. I mean, obviously conceptually it's enjoyable, but also just
yeah,
the detail, the work that went into it is very
yeah,
enjoyable to look at too.
yeah. Sam's really talented at that.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I also wanted to not get too far into this about you section before I asked about the project name, Stripe McCoy. So
Oh
Striped
yeah.
McCoy. What is that about?
It was absolute gibberish to be honest. It was like 2015. Like I was making more like house music and stuff back then under the name Dan's Dead, and I was thinking, I was sort of going into this more lo-fi, sort of more relaxed sort of sound, I guess. And there was a Facebook, you see on Facebook those what are they called? Like your blank name is like the last food you ate and your birthday and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so I saw one which was your mobster name, and it was the color or pattern of your underwear and the last thing you ate. And I got Stripe McCoy from that. So, and it just sort of stuck. Yeah, that was. I just thought, yeah, that sounds pretty good. I'll keep that.
Yeah, that's super cool, man. I love that. I mean, I think everybody has filled those out, and for like a split moment, it's all like, wow, that is such a cool word combination. I may change my legal name, but you actually now you said 2015 or so is when you came up with the name.
Yeah, I want to say it was around in 2015, 2016, something like
Yeah,
that.
so for 5 years, some random like Facebook questionnaire has dictated a little bit of your artistic movement. That's super cool.
Yeah.
I enjoy that. So speaking of artistic movement and some of your artistic origins, I'd really like to kind of trace artistic family trees as it were.
Yeah, sure.
So like who do you look to as one of your like earliest influences as far as creating music, or even just before getting into creating it, kind of like
man.
the stuff you listened to coming up?
Well, I didn't start getting into music properly until I was like maybe like 13, 14. Like I would listen to music, but it'd always be just like top 40 stuff that you'd hear on the radio. So, but the first music that actually influenced me was a lot of metal, like a lot of metalcore. So like Woe Is Me, Disturbed, Slayer, um, Metallica a little bit, not as much as it probably should. Yeah, it was just a lot of metal. Like
Yeah, yeah.
like solid for like 5 years up until I was like 18. It was just pure metal. So that's weirdly enough, that's probably influenced me into making music.
I have a very similar kind of background, just because playing drums through like early high school and
Yeah, I
stuff.
imagine,
If it
yeah.
wasn't as heavy and thrashing as possible, I didn't have time for it.
Yeah, I for my music GCSE, I had to play drums, and we all got grouped up, and we all had to pick a song to play in front of like a crowd. And the song we got was "Sweet Home Alabama." So it's like what, a 6-7 minute song, and it's just a 4/4 beat the entire
Yeah.
time.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
just yeah.
That's awesome.
I wanted to go a little faster, but they wouldn't let me.
So you said about 13 is when you got into music. Is that when you started also creating music, or just like when you? I know there was a distinct moment in my own life when I started realizing the names of bands, and that is when I say
yeah.
I got into music, even though it was before I started making music.
Yeah, I didn't start making music until I was probably like 18, I think.
Okay.
I always wanted to, but it was one of those things where I never knew how. Like I learnt drums for like 2 years, but because we're in a semi-detached house, we which is where like two houses share a wall basically.
Yeah.
We couldn't have a drum kit because it'd just be too loud, so I never got a chance to really learn an instrument at home just because of the noise.
Yeah. Yeah.
But obviously, once I was 18, I was listening to a lot of like dubstep and electronic music by then, and my friend Ollie, he made dubstep at the time, and I said to him, what software are you using for making music on your computer? And he just said Logic, and yeah.
That's awesome.
So I just got that and started fiddling around on it.
There's an enjoyable level of comfort with your tracks. I don't want to jump ahead though. Like I really it sounds like there's a I feel like as an artist becomes more comfortable with their craft or their instrument or whatever they use, it can become more subtle. And there's a lot of very enjoyable subtleties to your music and to your vocalization that set your music apart from growing up as a metal kid. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome, man. So what most recently, what's been inspiring you as far as music? Like, what's the last album you couldn't stop listening to?
Last album, album wise, probably Issues' last album. I can't remember the name of it now, but it's a metal album again. But it's I listened to it back to back for like a week.
Yeah,
but is it a cop out for individually just to say people from IMF? Because they've been who I've been listening to probably for like a month solid now. Just everyone on here. Everyone's just fantastic. I just constantly get recommended people from IMF now. Yeah,
it's a good problem to have though, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm fine with it.
And what would you say if you let's pretend it's another Facebook question? What is an album that you would say every person needs, or album or song, doesn't have to be a whole album. What's an album or song you think every person needs to check out before they die? Oh
man, that's a tough one. Probably Being as an Ocean's first album. That is it's weird because a lot of it is almost like spoken poetry, but that's one of the things that resonated with me, like the lyricism of the album. But it's like a post-hardcore poetic sort of album. So yeah, that's definitely one I think people should check out.
I'll check that out for sure. You said you started making music around 18. You're in university now. About how long, years wise, have you been making music now?
As Stripe McCoy, probably I want to say maybe like 5 or 6, at least for posting stuff. Definitely
a lot of projects I feel like run their course quicker, but like it's the ones where people continuously evolving into their name, like I imagine there are tracks from early Strike McCoy days where it doesn't sound anything like now. Is that the case?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there was a lot of different phases trying to find sound. I'm still trying to find it. I think everyone is, but.
Yeah,
I mean,
for sure.
Even with the IMF games, I'm putting out songs. Like I put out an electro swing song the other day, which is nothing like what I usually make.
Yeah. There's an evolution to a person's like art that happens when you stick to a project longer. The more of those like barriers you cross, the more you kind of learn your own skill set, your own sonic profile. Yeah. And I feel like there is a precise like use of sound in Stripe McCoy that I know that I don't think would have come about 1 year into the project, 2 years into the project.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, that's super cool, man.
I was pretty much strictly piano based when I first started, I think.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna have to figure out some way to listen to your earlier stuff just to
I can probably dig some up for you.
Awesome, yeah. I'll hold you to that. So before we do get into the specifics of your music, you just said electro swing is not something you make all the time. So why don't you tell me how would you describe what you make all the time? Like, what is your genre, for lack of a better term?
Oh man, I keep on struggling with figuring it out, like all the time. The one thing that I think it all gravitates around is lo-fi, probably. But at the same time, I don't know. It shifts and turns depending on the song. Like my last 2 songs have been a bit more different to my other stuff. So I don't know. Yeah, probably lo-fi is the best generic term for it all.
Gotcha. Yeah. And more specifically, what is your role in the project? You've obviously you started on piano instrumentation. You do vocals and things. What all do you do to craft one of your pieces? And do you have any outside help? Are there other people involved with Stripe McCoy?
It's pretty much all me, but every now and then I'll get someone in to help with a track if I can't do it. Like in my newest song, Cold, I got someone from IMF, A Sad Little Cloud. She's a violinist, and I got her to do a violin solo on it because the violin plugin I had just didn't sound right. Yeah. So every now and then when there's something I can't bring myself, I'll try and find people to help out.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm familiar with that track specifically, and not in a negative way, but I did not hear the difference between recorded and programmed sounds. In a good blended
When
together
done well,
kind of way.
when done well, it can be hard to hear. But I don't know. I think it was mainly just because I kept on hearing the fake violin over and over. I could just pick up on it a bit.
Yeah. I know. I recently learned that if you just crank reverb up, everything sounds real.
Yeah, reverb and
Awesome.
sausage fattener.
Yeah. Well, awesome, man. I want to talk more about some of your specific tracks, just because they deserve a little backstory of their own. They're little
sure.
living entities, just like you or me. So let's talk about some of them. Starting with, of course, I think you could probably guess this is where we're starting. Your track, "The Leaves."
Yeah,
which is the second track on your album on Spotify. It's all a mess, really. It's a good album name. I like just imagining that's what the astronaut's saying to himself as that black hole is beginning to crawl up his leg on your artwork. I absolutely love that track. It is
Thanks,
a jam. It kind of opens with like a whimsical opening line where you're kind of making like an in studio comment about the track.
Yeah.
Which I love, but then it jumps into like really catchy melodies, really tasteful uses of different like sounds and musical elements, and it kind of sets the tone for the rest of the album, or for like kind of your style in general. Like there's like a fun, laid back thoughtfulness to your music. So it's almost like even when it sounds melancholy, it still sounds like it's having a fun time.
Yeah, that was definitely the intent. Yeah. It's gonna take a couple takes, I can already tell. It's okay, I'll go. I don't wanna be all on my own. I know I'm scaring you. While I listen to the leaves. While I listen to the leaves. It's okay, I'll go. I don't wanna be all on my own. I know I'm scaring you.
Can you tell me some about how you found your current sound? You said you've been Strike McCoy about 6 years. You've gone through a few evolutions and changes in that process. Can you just talk to me about how you discovered this sound as your current sound?
It was a lot of trial and error, really. It was finding because I didn't start singing until maybe 2 years ago. So once I always wanted to have vocals on my tracks, but I could never get people to sing on them. So I thought, screw it, I'll just do it myself. And once I did that, I realized that I need to find sounds that sort of complemented my vocal range and stuff like that. So it was a lot of trial and error. And it was also finding stuff that I actually personally like, because I make the music because I like it,
Yeah, that's got to be an essential part of it. And it's
absolutely.
interesting to talk about like finding the music that matches your vocals.
Yes.
Yeah, that's an important concept that until very recently I was alien to as well. Like, well, I know GCD on a guitar, I'm going to play those and learn to sing on that, as opposed to maybe I need a capo, maybe I need an alternate tuning and things like that. That's cool, man.
Yeah, man, it's just a lot of just figuring it out for yourself.
Yeah, for sure. Are you the kind of guy now you just know what key you need to compose in, and things like that? Do you have favorite?
A lot of my tracks are in F sharp, but I don't specifically stick to a certain key. It just depends, because I always make the instrumental first and then I'll figure it out after.
Gotcha. Yeah.
But I've had a couple like the last Cold is out of my register, and that was a pain in the ass to sing on. So.
Yeah. It's when it turned out worth the pain. I assure you.
Oh yeah, I think so too.
Another one of your tracks that does a really good job of using your vocal style and just being catchy from kind of beginning to end, in a way that kind of reminds me of like folk music, where folk music is designed to not challenge the people learning it. Everyone's supposed to be able to join in and sing along. Somebody once said that like a key factor in folk is that the songs can outlive the singers. you know.
That's good.
Yeah, and your song "Killing Me" really gave me that type of vibe. With the vocal melody being enjoyable to listen to, catchy in a way that I wanted to hum even before I knew the words, you know. But also like enjoyable in that if I tuned in and listened to the lyrics, it was another layer of artisticness.
2 feet swing from the balcony. Oh, what I've done to me. I'm just 2 steps away from my eulogy. And you don't sleep, 'cause you don't eat. Lie awake thinking about the end. Write a sad song like the last one. Maybe one day you will break the trend.
I wanted to ask more about just how you craft your vocal melodies. Do you sing over and over again until you get something, or do you have like
Kind of, yeah. I mean, a lot of it stems on, because I try to take into account phonetics when writing lyrics. So I'll always try and come up with the lyrics and then try and fit a melody to them. I mean, I don't know which is the normal process, but I think I work more from a poetic standpoint, I think, lyrically. So, and the melodies just come with the song. It's kind of hard to explain, but yeah.
Yeah. That there is like a quality to your vocal melodies that almost, in a positive way, feels like a path of least resistance. Like it's the melody the song needed to feel complete.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best way to put it. I don't try and make the tracks for my voice. It's more the other way around, I feel.
Gotcha. Yeah. That's awesome, man. And you said you don't know how people normally do it. I have a feeling everyone does it a little bit different.
Oh yeah, probably.
So that's cool. I feel like it's an approach that if people aren't already trying in their regular practice, it would be really interesting to see just how I don't know how different your own art could become, you know, or my own art could become if I adapted that just for a song, just to see, you know.
Yeah,
it's an interesting thing. One of my personal favorites, honestly, it's silly calling it personal favorite because all these tracks that we're talking about are kind of my personal favorites off the album.
Thanks, man.
But another one of my favorites off the album is Insects and Airplanes.
Yeah, that was a fun one.
Yeah, I really like the way it has this kind of dark feeling throughout in the music and melodies, but the words are, again, I want to use the word whimsical, like they're having fun. There's this kind of story going on about these grasshoppers. They seem to be like siblings or friends or something like that.
2 little grasshoppers plan to win the war, while the mother weeps for the foolish man claiming to rule them all. Sweet little airplane flying towards the sun, helping me forget all the bad things that I've done.
I want to first give you space to talk about what that song's about. Is it a metaphor for something? Is it just a fairy tale that you adapted for for lyrics? So go with that for now, and then I do have a follow-up question.
Well, Insects and Airplanes was like the first track I decided to try and write a story with. Because a lot of my songs are more about me or someone I know, whereas this was more fabricated. The idea was to work with like metaphors and analogies and stuff like that, because the story is more, it's like a family tragedy about growing up in an abusive household and stuff like that. And I don't like being very heavy-handed with lyrics or being obvious, I guess, so I try and wrap it up in a different package, so it just takes a little bit of time for the listener to figure it out themselves.
Yeah. I think that's a really enjoyable way to tell a story. You know, it's got one foot in reality and one foot in fiction, and
absolutely,
as a listener, you get to decide what you're comfortable taking from it.
Yeah, it leaves people up for interpretation, I think, and people who experience something like that can find something in it, and people who don't may find something else in it.
Yeah. So, without obviously digging into anything too personal about the backstory of that specific track, but also, talking some more about inspiration for lyrics. So you've already said that you kind of write poetically first and then adapt it to a melody, and also this song is kind of a real life situation masked by a story. So
it's not my personal story in Sex and Airplanes, but it is a story I know of from someone.
Gotcha. So, yeah. Do you often find inspiration in stories you've heard from other people, or do you try
absolutely. I mean, one of my other songs, Bitter, is about someone else. And so, I do find stuff, but the reason I try and mask it up is so it isn't so obvious it's about that person, I guess.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense for sure. Would you say the majority of your songs have one foot in reality, in a story you've heard?
Oh, yeah, absolutely, yeah. I think
Gotcha.
So.
Yeah. That's a beautiful way to engage with reality, I think. That's a really good thing to do. It's almost a therapeutic.
Yeah, it's definitely, I definitely, especially with the album, I wrote it more as like a mental health diary, I think, is probably the best way to put it. It's just a good way to release everything that's bottled up.
Absolutely, yeah. It's without you confirming that to me, like it kind of shows in track after track of hopeful but almost sad sounds.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of juxtaposition that I tried to play with in the album.
Yeah, that's fantastic, man. I hope if nothing else, the conversation we're having right now has convinced others to go listen to this album.
I hope so too.
If they haven't already. Yeah. So another one, just kind of playing on that juxtaposition theme, is Bitter, the last track on the album. I love how it's right from the get-go. It is a experience of contrast. You've got this kind of bright, happy instrument going. Yeah. Like a ukulele, I guess. Is that what that is?
Yeah, it's a ukulele, yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful instrument. I think I like to tell people ukulele is a good instrument to learn because by default it sounds beautiful.
Plus, you can use like one finger and you've got a chord. It's easy.
Yeah. It's like drop D, but for islanders.
Yeah.
But I love the contrast right off the bat. It's got this really enjoyable, like upbeat ukulele sound going.
Yeah.
But then, as soon as the chord progression plays through one time, you realize you're in for more than an upbeat, enjoyable song. Like the chord progression itself is kind of shaped in this thoughtful way. And then your kind of melancholy vocal melody comes in.
Yeah.
But then the lyrics are, again, I don't want to get too personal into anybody's story, but lyrically, it seems to be telling this story, but in a very indirect way. Like there's a story happening that you're kind of hearing through a wall, you know? Like it's not,
pretty much.
It's not too heavy-handed or too direct.
Yeah, it's more me like telling a story in the third person, I guess. You know, like in the old school, like you see on TV shows about the old man singing a song around a fire or something to like travelers. It's kind of like that, I guess.
Yeah.
She said her love was gone, too bitter for your own tongue, that you were too pure for her own lungs. Their promises were soon undone.
Can you tell me about the process of writing that song, or even what you took away from reality and then crafted into this song?
Well, it was mainly just a story that I know from someone, and it's sort of how I saw it from my point of view, I guess. But obviously everything has the their side of the story, there's the other side, and then there's the truth in the middle. And mine is just another interpretation of that, I guess.
Yeah.
But I mean, that song was done in a day. I think it didn't take. Like, I had the lyrics for a bit, like a couple weeks, and then I was trying to fit them into a more upbeat track, and then I realized it was better just strip back and just with one instrument, really.
I really like when, I write songs and stuff, and I feel like the best ones that I've ever written are ones that just happened.
Yeah, exactly.
As opposed to, like, agonizing over them. It kind of just comes out of me. I had a journal entry a week ago, and all of a sudden those words came out in melody, you know?
Yeah, for sure. There's a big difference to getting a song to develop naturally and then trying to fart out a song over, like, a month.
Yeah. That's... I feel like there is in wrapped up in the fun feeling of your music, there is an ease. Like I think I described it as like a laid back type feeling, and none of it feels forced in a way that is in competition with other music or listeners' attention. Like it all feels very much like a personal art piece that's well made enough to share with others. So I think that's I don't mean to only blow your ego up. I'm just trying to
do it a little bit. It's fine.
Yeah. All right. Awesome. I'll send you a Valentine's card. So coming to the next song I want to talk about. Recently, you shared with the IMF group the song "Cold," which we've already talked about it a few times. I'm sure it's hot on your mind right now as like the newest thing you're working on.
Yeah, it is a bit.
Yeah, but one thing I definitely want to talk about with that track is how different from your other music it sounds, while still using some of the, tried and true Striped McCoy sounds and elements and ideas. It very much contrasts against some of the laid back or even like fun type ideas. There's this heavy vocal effect going on early on.
It's definitely one of my like heavier songs, subject matter wise, I think. So that's it. There was a lot of thematic reasoning, I think is the right term for the decisions made in it.
There's still a contrast going on between like the really bouncy kind of picked out guitar part and those heavy, almost alien, almost robotic vocals, you know?
Yeah. I was just gonna say, like, the reason the vocals were the way because, like I was saying with thematic reasoning, there's the story I'm telling in that I wanted to represent in the sounds as well. It was kind of me trying to just go full, I don't know what the right term is, but like full fake deep on it, I guess. So is the closest term. Where I wanted to make everything just sort of represent what I was telling.
Yeah, I feel you. So it's very much a like a performance piece, you know, that everything represents exactly what it is. Yeah. That's cool. But I love knowing more of the backstory of the specific track, but I kind of want to use it as a jumping off point to ask you how you decide what to make next.
Oh.
Was it kind of a natural, just, okay, it's time to make a song that sounds like this? You know, was it the next thing in your own heart? Or do you sit and say, I don't want to make It's All a Mess really part 2. Let's see what new sounds I can find.
For this one, it was definitely this is what I want to do right now. Usually it's whatever, like I'll open up a new project file and I'll start making a song, and if it's something that I think I can finish, then I'll just do that one next. Otherwise I'll just like set it aside and go back to an older project that isn't done yet and see if I can come up with something now that I couldn't when I was making it at the time.
Yeah, that's cool. So right now, without exposing any trade secrets. We don't want your computer hacked and your music stolen. But how many unfinished just tracks do you have that you revisit from time to time?
Oh man, like I want to say no more than 20, but more than 15. It's probably like 16, 17, I think, that I've got still working on.
That's two more albums I'm expecting to hear soon. So
yeah, we'll see.
That's cool. Yeah. So with that kind of in mind, like just this ever enjoyable process of making new songs, of putting your thoughts on songs, of therapeutically processing what you're thinking and feeling in a way that comes out as these catchy tunes. Why do you make music? What is it that you're hoping the listeners receive when you make music?
I make music because it's something to distract. It's also something to affect. And because I like it, I think I wouldn't be making the tracks I make if I didn't personally like them. I don't think. It was the reason I switched from making house music, because while I enjoy listening to it, I didn't enjoy making it. So I think that's very important. Is you have to like what you make as well as what you listen to. So yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I read a quote in a book one time that like nobody knows how to love something until someone teaches them. You know, and I feel like right now you have an opportunity to teach people how to love your work before they even hear it.
Ooh, okay. Let me think about this. Okay. I think to best enjoy it is just take it at face value. Think of it as someone just making music that they like in their room, and try and associate themselves with the personal experiences that I've tried to tell as meaningfully as possible. And hopefully they'll find a connection through that. Because at the end of the day, it's more me just trying to be honest with my mental health and everything that's going on with the world, I guess. And if you want to listen to that, you know, feel free. And if you don't, there's plenty of other good music out there.
Yeah, that's true. So I want to leave some space right now for you to give young artists or people who maybe they're experiencing some sort of like creative block right now.
Yeah.
What is your discipline? What is your practice? How do you go about coming up with new songs? Like, I want to know what it looks like when Stripe McCoy sits and practices or writes or crafts.
Walks are good.
Walks.
Like, I will go on a walk every time I feel blocked. Just grab your headphones, earphones, whatever, and just listen to whatever music you can and just clear your head. And ideas will eventually come. It's not a process. It's not a matter of not having ideas. It's just the matter of them not being with you in that present moment. Because everyone comes up with ideas eventually, but it's just, we all just work at different speeds.
Yeah, that's. I really like what you said. Like, everybody's got ideas; they're just not there in that moment.
Yeah,
you know? You got to give them some space to breathe, I guess. That's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. From that, I want to be sure that we leave space also here in the chat just to
sure.
For you to shout out whatever you want people to find. I know you're on Spotify, SoundCloud. Where else can people find you?
Spotify, SoundCloud, all the major like streaming platforms, so like Deezer, all that jazz. You know, I'm also on Instagram and Twitter as well. I don't really post much, but I am there. So.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. I'll be sure. You should set up a link tree. It is a miraculous tool.
Oh,
and
I
I'll
have
be sure
one.
to. Awesome. I'll be sure to link it with with this episode so people can find you in all the places and ask you in the middle of the night what certain song lyrics are about. Awesome. Well, from that, man, I want to go ahead and thank you for your time again.
Yeah,
this has
thanks
been
for having me.
An enjoyable dive into what you make. I will probably let you go
Cool.
and hit you up later.
Yeah, man. Cool. Good talking.
Yeah, you too. Peace.
Bye.
While I listen to the leaves, while I listen listen to the leaves, while I listen to the leaves.
Stripe had a lot of helpful things to say about creating art and finding your own sound. Just his dedication to the trial and error of figuring out what it is he wants to make and how to make it well is inspirational. I think it goes to show that if you give yourself time to process your feelings, your thoughts, your ideas, then they are going to come out and they are going to make something that you enjoy listening to. Not only making, not only writing, but that you actually enjoy the sound of. And I think that is something extremely valuable when it comes down to making art, liking what you make. I hope you take some time to check out the show notes and look up Stripe's work. You can find his entire album that we mostly talked about on Spotify, and it is worth listening to beginning to end. It is a very enjoyable piece of work. This interview was recorded live at the IMF Discord server. We try to do a live interview most Saturdays. If that is something that you'd like to get into, absolutely come over. In the show's link in the show notes, you'll actually find a link to the Discord server where people are constantly helping one another with their sound, their music, building one another up, sharpening one another's skills. It is a lively community that everyone fits in with. It is a great place. And you will get the full picture of these interviews if you are at one live. There's a good deal of the show that unfortunately gets edited out just to keep this recording accurate and, you know, kind of self-contained without having to know who's who in the IMF channel. So there is more to this show than what gets pushed out on the podcast. So it is worth your time to come listen live, join in on the community, join in on the fun, the conversation. We look forward to getting to know you, just like we got to know Stripe today, and you know, through this show, the community is getting to know one another more every week. One member of the community, Suhil S2, he's also known as on SoundCloud. He is actually one of the show's sponsors and one of the earlier episodes' guests. So you can check him out on episode 4, I think it may have been. You can also check him out on SoundCloud. And because he's a sponsor, you can find a link to a lot of his stuff in our show's link tree, which is in the show notes. The song you're hearing right now is one of his newer ones, and it's a jam. So check it out. Listen to it to the end. It's going to kind of play us out. Until next time, please stay courageous, stay curious, and stay creative.